Here's a question for you. Do you spoil your kids? How do you know if your kids are spoiled? Joining me now is Colleen Rodriguez. She is Executive Director of the Jewish Family and Community Services, and she's sharing with us the top signs that you're spoiling your kids and how you can avoid it. You know, I think about this. My son's an only child, and we really try. I mean, we try to do the best we can. But here's the thing. What are some of the signs that you know you've got a spoiled kid?
So there's a couple things to look for. The first is, how are they with manners? I mean, please and thank you aren't everything, but do they demand things, whether asking for things? Are they rude? Are they disrespectful? Do they have trouble showing gratitude? Those are all signs that maybe there's an issue. How about no? Nobody likes to be told no.
Nobody likes to be told no. And you know, they tend to freak out a little bit sometimes when you tell them no.
So no one wants to be told no, adults or children, but does it always result in a temper tantrum?
If it always results in a temper tantrum, then you have an issue. Because sometimes you know, in our household, it doesn't always. Sometimes it results in a temper tantrum.
Right. Mine too, absolutely. But if it's always resulting, and that's always the interaction you're having, and it's happening multiple times in a day, that's a red flag. And the other thing is back on the parents. Are you parenting from a place of guilt? Maybe it's a divorce, maybe you're working long hours, maybe there's financial strain. And so are you making decisions and being a little more lenient than you really want to be and should be because out of guilt?
And this is tough. I mean, because, you know, for the first 3 years, just speaking personally, I wasn't there in the mornings. And so I had a lot of guilt. And, you know, and I was, you know, let's get back to the thing about saying the pleases and thank yous. When you're dealing with little kids, because I know the whole point is to teach them early.
Correct.
If they forget to say it or they're not saying it regularly, how do you get them to do it?
You remind them, and they don't get the reward or they don't get the meal. Yesterday I took my son to dinner and he was not going to get the reward until he said thank you to the person who offered it to him. So it's constant reminding. It doesn't come naturally. It's the role of the parent.
Okay, so one thing you wanted to make sure people know is that all kids have tantrums sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So kids in the developmental stage are trying to figure out wants and needs. Adults sometimes still have that problem.
I still have tantrums sometimes.
Right. So the wants and needs, that's part of development. But if you are, I said it earlier, if you're seeing a child having demands and temper tantrums all day long with every interaction with a parent, that's something to be concerned about. Children should be growing out of tantrums around age 4 or 5.
Okay. And really, you know, and I'm reading over your notes here because this is a great segment for you guys at home, but I'm learning as we go as well. So the bratty or spoiled behavior ultimately stops and starts with us, the parents. We have to do it. So what are some of the steps we can take to do that?
We have to set clear expectations. We have to set the rules, and then we have to enforce them, which is the tricky part for parents. You're in Publix, you just want to get shopping done and get out. It's easy to bend the rules or buy that treat. But that's reinforcing the negative behavior. If every time a child pitches a temper tantrum, you give them a reward, well, then what is that teaching them? What is that teaching them? I need to have a temper tantrum to get a reward. So you have to be careful about that.
So don't be afraid to say no.
Absolutely. You have to say no. You have to set the boundaries, and actually kids want you to. It gives them a sense of security and safety.
What about when they're good? What do you do when they, I mean, do you reinforce the positive behavior?
Absolutely. Reinforce the positive behavior every chance you can get. And you hope that you're going to be doing that more than you're going to have to be, you know, disciplining.
You know, and I've also heard that a lot of teachers have success with kind of doing the mind trick with kids. You know, if they're running, looking at them and saying, you know, I appreciate it that you're walking carefully, and all of a sudden the kid will stop and walk carefully. Do things like that really make a difference?
Redirecting. And you don't want to have negative interactions with your children. Teachers don't want to have negative interactions all day long with their students. Absolutely. Focusing on the positive, looking for the positive, no matter how small it is, and making that what you want to praise the child about.
If you're a parent that is having trouble, where do you turn? Is there, I mean, are there, because like people say, there's not really classes for, you know, for parenting, but there are. That's the thing. I mean, there really are. So where could you turn to?
So there are wonderful organizations in Northeast Florida. At Jewish Family and Community Services, we have a whole division called DuPont Counseling Group that is staffed with licensed therapists and parenting specialists. So if you're feeling like you really need some outside conversation, you need some outside observation and some tips, you can also go to your pediatrician, but there are organizations where social workers can help you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this advice. We truly appreciate it. We're going to have this video posted on the morning show page of news4jax.com in case you want to share it with anybody. Vic?